TSM has a problem, and his name is Wardell.
Wow, you are crazy. Did you even watch the Gen G series?
You ready to roll?
Yep, ready to rock and roll.
You're listening to TSM. Wait, what is this called? Talk TSM? TSM Talk?
Talk solo mid, I think we're going to do
right.
the first.
You're listening to Talk Solo Mid. This is a TSM fan cast. We talk all things TSM. I'm Ryan. I'm here with my co-host Dave. I've been into esports for a while. I play StarCraft, I play Valorant, and I'm a recovering League of Legends player myself.
Hi, I'm Dave, and I've been a big TSM fan since about 2014. Kind of been following the league scene and started picking up on all the other teams, so I figured start a podcast to kind of talk about everything that's going on.
And what is going on, Dave?
So last weekend, the Rainbow Six team, they went up against Team Oxygen and Team Sonics. Unfortunately, they lost 5-7 versus Oxygen, and they fell 7-8 versus Sonics. However, going into those games, it was kind of the community's predictions that they heavily favored TSM. So I believe
isn't that always the case with community predictions in TSM?
That is a good point. The TSM fan base is pretty overwhelming at times, for better or for worse.
Do you think that TSM really is favored, or do you think they just have the biggest fan base?
I think they definitely might have a bit of a bigger fan base than Sonics, but Sonics are known as the rowdier crowd for sure.
Pound for pound, they're more enthusiastic than us.
Yeah, all three of them are very, very vocal and probably smash those votes. So
TSM's Rainbow Six team not doing so hot. Dave, what else is there? Give me some good news.
Well, we got some good news in the TSM Valorant Female team. They took first this past weekend in the Tampax Gaming Fest tournament.
Sponsored by Tampax, I assume?
Yep, correct. Yeah, it was their first gaming tournament that they ever sponsored.
What was the prize pool?
The prize pool was $10,000.
Holy moly, that's a lot of money. What is that, like one box of tampons? Probably.
Give or take, but that aisle kind of scares me, so I don't really have a kind of a knowledge of those prices.
So it's between 1 and 10,000 tampons, we think.
Yeah, about that. So they made out pretty well this past weekend. They beat big names like CLG Red and Dignitas female team as well.
Now, Dignitas, their team disbanded, their male team, I guess. So
correct. Yeah,
actually, the Dignitas female team is the Dignitas team now.
They probably shouldn't have the name Dignitas Female. It should just be called Dignitas at this point. But who knows? I mean, they came in last place for this gaming tournament, so I don't know if Dignitas will keep Valorant around in general, or
maybe we should start a Dignitas podcast. Do you think we could get I'm a Cutie Pie on if we did a Dignitas podcast?
We could say featuring I'm a Cutie Pie and just play some I'm a Cutie Pie clips repeatedly, and maybe we'll catch some old school Dignitas fans, which are probably the ones left.
Yeah, this will be huge in nursing homes.
Yeah, that's about right. Well, what's Kiwi Kid up to? I'm sure we can hit him up for some guest appearances.
What else you got, Dave? What else is new?
So also last weekend, our eNascar driver, Nick Odinger. Wait, that what did we go with?
I think we were saying Odinger.
Odinger. Okay, I'm going to start back from the beginning.
Yep. So
our eNascar driver, Nick... Wait. Sorry. I don't know why I want to say Odinger. It's... Wait, say it again?
I say Odinger. Maybe we...
Odinger.
You know what? I'm not going to cut any of this. We're keeping this whole thing in.
This whole segment of me struggling to pronounce this name.
I have
it's such
no
a simple
idea
name.
How to pronounce this guy's name, and I'm sorry to Nick Ottinger. I'm sure he is an excellent virtual NASCAR player or racer. What do you call those guys?
Well,
virtual
see, this is
driver?
the problem. Yeah. This is a problem with eNascar, though. It's like regular NASCAR has such simple pronounced names. Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson. They need to catch up. They need simpler names.
Is Jimmy Johnson is that a sandwich place?
I think that's Jimmy John's.
Is he sponsored by Jimmy John's? Is Jimmy Johnson sponsored by Jimmy John's?
I don't know. I don't even know if he drives anymore. I have very vague knowledge of NASCAR.
That's because you know why? He dropped out of NASCAR to start a sandwich place.
Or an eNascar team.
Either way, what do you say he came in 6th?
He finished 9th last week, but now he's currently in 6th overall in the league. This was the round 6 race in their current season.
He came in 9th and he's in 6th? He moved up. He moved midweek. He moved up.
I actually don't know.
You know what? I'm going to say NASCAR does not make any sense. Making the call on that.
Yeah, I don't understand how the circuits work. I don't know if he fell to 6 or like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if he was like 2nd.
Yeah, no,
like, yeah, I think how it works is like every week there's like random circuit points. So I don't know where he was.
Actually, if you guys want, we're starting another podcast where it's just me and Dave trying to figure out how eNascar works. We have 10 hours recorded of us trying to pronounce Nick Oettinger.
And figure out if 6 overall is good or not. So yeah, he's currently 6th. He was the 2020 eNascar champion as well.
What's the prize money look like for Mr. Oettinger?
So it looks like Nick kind of made out with a solid $300,000. There was a $300,000 prize pool last year, and he took home, since he got first, $103,000.
$103,000 for winning eNascar?
Yep.
God, that's got to be like 10 to 15 tampons.
Ooh, I think that I would think even less, but that's a good guess. But yeah, so this year the prize pool is up to $330,000. I don't know how much the first place guy takes home from that, but again, Nick would need to be a back-to-back eNascar champion, which I don't know exactly how common that would be. I don't.
Yeah, see, this is a problem I have with TSM is they get these guys, they wait till he wins the championship, then they pick this guy up. And like he's already reached the peak. He's at the top. You can't do better than winning the eNascar championship, right? That's Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And now we pick him up. We pick this guy up, and if he can't do it again, like we're all going to be super mad. We're all going to be so pissed off at Nick Oettinger.
Yeah.
Nick Oettinger, please come on the show and teach us how to pronounce your name.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, anyone that follows it, may have some high expectations for him because he just won. And he was representing I'm not too familiar with how the teams really work for eNascar, but he was on team William Byron Esports. So I would think that's a big jump in the esports world to go from William Byron to TSM. So
William Byron, is that a college?
That I'm not sure. I don't know if it's college or some dude that just had like, $500 left over and bought one of those like Xbox steering wheels or something. I'm not too sure.
That would be good if it was just some guy. Dave, I'm going to buy you a wheel, and then you have to play on the Ryan Mann's eNascar team.
The funny thing is, these teams that are listed out here, we got Elliott Sadler, Joe Gibbs. Those are all NASCAR teams, but it's funny to see that mixed in because there's also Team XSET, Team Space Station Gaming. So it's kind of a weird kind of mix there of worlds.
Yeah. See, I think they should take it to the next level. I think Nick Oettinger, I think he's ready for the big leagues. Put him in a real car.
That should be the finals. It's
like the finals when you go when you do it live, you know how they play League of Legends with zero ping?
Yeah.
The zero ping eNascar final should just be the Daytona 500.
Yeah, that's a good point. Or
this is a LAN eNascar, also known as NASCAR.
That would be amazing. Yeah, just make every final for every esport just emulate the real thing in video games.
Yeah. Wait till you see the Rainbow Six finals. You ready to get into the big stuff?
Yep.
So, TSM League of Legends.
Yes. The Academy team played this past weekend on their big tournament called Proving Grounds. They played 3 teams. They lost to Zeus Gaming. They went ahead and beat FlyQuest Academy. And then they fell 1-3 against EG Academy. I wanted to touch on that loss to Zeus Gaming because it's rather interesting.
Atrocious, by the way. That team looks terrible. One of my problems with TSM is I really want them to win. I didn't become a TSM fan because I like to watch a team grow and develop. I'm here for wins. So
wins right now.
When a team like Zeus Gaming comes onto the scene, beats TSM, loses their next 2 games, and then disbands, I take that personally.
Yeah, that was there's something very weird about that scenario where they beat TSM, got beaten their next 2 games, and then left the scene. They absolutely left the building. And you're like, was this a targeted assassination of TSM's attempt at winning Proving Grounds? Or what was going on there? They were just in the scene, beat TSM out of the scene. Yeah, it was like a formulated team that had a personal vendetta against TSM. Yeah. They like maybe a TSM fan commented on their Reddit post or something and hurt their feelings.
My personal theory is similar to the Terminator movie. There are a bunch of robots that were sent back through time specifically to beat TSM here.
So yeah, they fell to that Zeus Gaming. Then they lost to EG Academy pretty badly, which then kind of prompted a big roster change out of TSM Academy. So they ended up cutting Babip from the Academy lineup. Babip was a 4 to 5 year veteran, or not veteran, but he played in the scene 4 to 5 years. He was from Oceania. He got brought over from that league when it disbanded because NA was able to import them for free. And he's been to Worlds twice, so he had some credentials and some potential, but he kind of just fell a bit short of expectations. And as you can see by their 3-6 record, the split 7th place is not really kind of an acceptable finish for any TSM team. I
mean, we're the fucking Yankees, right? Like, yeah. How can we not beat 6 other teams that are also Academy teams?
And Cody Sun, who again is also a big name in it, or somewhat a big name. He was never a superstar, but he was good enough to take some teams to Worlds. So it was weird to see them finish 7th. We have some kind of debate topics about that and some hot takes that we'll go into later about this whole release of Babip.
All right, Dave, let's move on to the real deal. The big event this week, everybody's talking about it. Valorant. This is the only reason that we decided to start this podcast this week. Otherwise, it's been relatively disappointing, honestly, other than my man, Nick Oettinger. But this is the big leagues, and TSM managed to scrape it out. Well, it wasn't really a scrape. It was sort of a stomp.
Yeah, it really was. They beat the teams that they're expected to beat, which are like a bunch of teams that are just kind of grouping together for the open qualifier. Some dudes that were probably just like in solo queue. It's like, yo, do you want to like join this tournament? Yeah, sure.
Do you have Discord? So, no. These guys are typing back and forth. They're going C.
Yeah, so they beat those teams 2-0, which is expected. And then they ran into a team called Sonics. This kind of made me feel a little bit pessimistic going into the Genji map, just because they did beat Sonics 2-1, but after the first
is not good enough. It's not good enough for a team like TSM, which should be the number 1 team. This shouldn't even be close. I can't even believe we're talking about this. It should be TSM should win all these things, and everybody else is playing for second.
Yes, I agree.
Huge name early on. Just buy whoever you need to buy to win. What are we doing here?
Exactly. So then here we are, that series against Sonics to start off with an icebox loss. Took them to the map 3 to really put Sonics kind of in their place. They beat them, I think, 13-4 on split. I was expecting a 2-0 there, and at least definitely a better showing for map 1 they needed. We were kind of talking before this recording and before the Gen G, like, what's going on? Like, we're pretty pessimistic going to Gen G. Gen G looks pretty good at times. Is Wardell not big enough of a carry? Like, do we need others to start stepping up and be a good supportive cast of him? We just weren't really optimistic. And then as we're taking notes and kind of talking about other people that could slide into the slot of that big carry of Wardell, the Gen G series happens. And one of the people that we discussed was Gen G Win, who is their kind of jet one trick op guy. Yeah, we were kind of completely floored and had to erase a lot of talking points after that.
Well, maybe you did, but I wrote my talking points in pen because I know I'm right. I was, of course, impressed by their game against Gen G. It looked like they actually did their homework, or they were hitting their shots. I don't know what side of the bed they woke up on, but like, where is this TSM, 90% of the time? Why does it seem irreplicable?
Right, yeah. It's like, they did have that knockout series against Gen G, which obviously gets everyone hyped. And gets me, super excited, but it's all about consistency. Like, Wardell gets off the radar, obviously, or gets off what's the problem radar, when he drops for a little bit, when he drops a 21-1 start or whatever he was against Gen G. But what if he shows up to this upcoming Immortals match and then he's middle to lower the pack like he was in some of the Sonics games.
Yeah. This is not what you want to see from a guy who is playing a duelist, who's supposed to frag out, who's supposed to get a bunch of kills, who's supposed to take space on the map. And he's just so inconsistent about doing it every time. I am not sure, even though his performance this week, of course, was great, I am just feeling like he got a 4K the first round, and then he caught fire, right? I would love to see him do it again, of course. Do I have faith that he can do it again, though? I don't know. I think Immortals can put the fire out quick if they need to.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But for kind of a hot take discussion here.
Is it time to go to hot takes?
I believe so. I think there's so many topics of these past two events that we just talked about.
You know what? Let's do it. Let's go to hot takes. Hot takes. Hot takes.
See, we need a hot take sponsor.
Yeah.
So they could be like a nice smooth intro.
Tampax. We did a really good job mentioning them earlier. NASCAR,
Yeah,
maybe the NASCAR segment. Hot takes.
Possibly overvalued your product.
Yeah, the burning rubber takes. What else? Who would you like to be sponsored by?
For hot takes? Yeah, how about like William Byron Esports hot takes?
The William Byron hot takes section. By the way, we would take any sponsor. Razor. Just saying.
Razor.
Nike.
Are we going to be Nike athletes by the end of this podcast? Who knows?
I think so. Nobody can beat me at sitting in a chair. That's for sure. With the possible exception of Nick Oettinger.
Anyway, so here's my hot take.
All right, Dave, drop me your hot take. What's your hot take?
Although TSM looked probably their best in a while this past map against Gen G with their lineup with Hazed in the lineup, I think that TSM should have kept brax as a starter.
While I respect your opinion, I do think that you're an idiot. Hazed is... I can't believe they got brax at all. Number one, brax is a cheater. Brax has a history of fixing matches. Right? In CSGO, I'm serious. In CSGO, there was a scandal where he was involved in fixing some matches. You don't want that kind of guy, right? We're the most legit esports team, or we're supposed to be. But you add brax to the mix, all that goes away. That's just off the court here. Off the court, you know what I'm talking about. That's just off the that's just off the comp, you know? Off the computer. Right. I mean, number two, they gave him a shot. What more do you want? He couldn't outperform Hazed. And Hazed, by the way, looked good in the game that Wardell was carrying. You know how hard it is to look good next to Wardell when he's firing on all cylinders like that?
Maybe Hazed isn't the one they should have replaced with brax, but it almost felt like TSM management was kind of just coasting with this lineup. So it was good, almost refreshing to see at least they grab brax, but like it's also like,
yeah, it's nice to know they're awake, I guess, but beyond that, I think it was a bad decision.
Yeah, it's really tough to say because it's hard to gauge ceilings, and maybe it's just me. I'm relatively new to catching up on the CSGO scene history. I do know that he was banned for match fixing, which is never a good look. But everything I see is like he is CSGO prodigy that was cut short. And, this is his second, rebirth. And I know that things didn't go through in Team 1. So I was like, it seemed like such a great signing. And then it seemed like TSM put him into the Challengers and then gave up on him right away after they lost to Immortals, who is a very good team. So it's like, what is the ceiling? Like, we'll never know.
Well, I don't think they didn't give up on him. They tried him out, and he underperformed. So they went back to the guy that they knew could get the job done. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just I think it's actually the smart thing to do in this case. Believe me, I'm the first one to jump down TSM's management's throat, but I think this was the right call.
Well, what do you say happens if they fall to Immortals, and then how about this? They fall to Immortals. They get dumped down to loser bracket, and then they lose. I know it's a lot of what ifs.
No, number one, it's not going to happen, right? They're going to beat Immortals. Number two, there's no way that the difference is going to be brax. The difference is going to be, does Wardell show up? Does Sabrosa show up? Does Drone show
So
up?
that's kind of like the hard part of looking at this Valorant team is it never feels like there's a single point of failure. It doesn't feel like someone's dragging. So if they do lose, do you make an aggressive roster change? And if so, like, since, it's hard to pinpoint where, like maybe not just the brax subbing up, do you rebuild? Do you really rebuild around somebody or a couple people?
This is a great transition into my hot take. Hot take! My hot take is this. The problem is not Hazed. It's not Drone. It's not Sabrosa. It's not Cutler. It's Wardell.
Oof.
Wardell has got to go.
Oof. So were you sweating a bit when you thought of this hot take when you were watching that Gen G match and you were like, this guy's shooting people through walls, getting 4Ks every round? Or
I have to admit, I did have to rewrite my notes a little bit. But I think I'm right on principle. The reason is TSM they do this in all their sports where they have a franchise player. We saw it in League of Legends for a while with Bjergsen. It's similar with Wardell. They get a big name with a great personality. Wardell seems like a great guy. I love watching I watch his YouTube. I love watching his highlights. He's an extremely entertaining player to watch. I love how aggressive he is. But he is so inconsistent. He is so streaky. And I don't think that's what you want if you're trying to win tournaments. I would much rather see a Shanks by the way, Shanks, this is my invitation to Shanks. Shanks, come on the podcast. I love you. Something that sticks out in my mind about Shanks is he was in a 1v5 against Sentinels with 10s, and he got a 4K. He almost brought it back. That guy can kill anybody on any map. And, unlike Wardell, he plays a second agent. Wardell does not have the range, nor is he consistent enough, I think, to justify the lengths that TSM go to keep him and to make him look better than he is. I mean, the investment that goes into this guy, they're buying in the op third round. The first round where he gets that 4K, if he doesn't get that 4K, they're going to look like an idiot because they bought him a frenzy and light armor.
All right, so I'm going to back you up a little bit and kind of challenge at least some of this. I do agree partly with some of what you said, but at the same time, does the inconsistency come from, Wardell's eagerness to make plays, right? No play can really be 100%. So he goes for some low percentage plays. If they work out, he gets on another Twitch clip that's trending.
High risk, high reward. Yeah.
Yep,
and that's
exactly.
what I'm saying. For him, I feel like he's going for the highlight reel, not the W.
Now, do you think he has to do that based on TSM's cast around him? So I do think Sabrosa is a big playmaker as well.
Sabrosa is this is why I think you're wrong. Sabrosa is great. Drone, I think, is the real carry here. Drone on Phoenix, Drone on Sova. I mean, I was watching a game the other week. I think it was against Reformed Gaming, where Drone at one point, we're making a big deal. Oh, Wardell's 12-1 or whatever in the first 4 rounds. Drone was 12-1, and nobody talks about it. Nobody cares. It's just Wardell's name is in all caps, and he uses the op. That's the only difference. Give Drone a chance to carry. Back Drone up. Buy him the frenzy and light armor. See what he can do.
This is kind of the point of your hot take where I did partly agree with you. It always concerns me that, every team, there are a bunch of Jet 1 tricks that are operator users. And Wardell obviously is one of them. So does him filling that duelist spot, does that hinder Drone? What if Drone was on the Jet?
Well, I can't speak to that because Drone will never get to play Jet while Wardell is on the team. But I've seen Drone's Phoenix, and Drone's Phoenix is nasty. Drone's Sova is nasty. There's been multiple occasions where I've seen Drone hold off a 5-man rush with 2 shock darts. Yeah. That guy is ridiculous.
All these guys have to kind of break their backs to learn different agents, different almost roles entirely. Sova and Phoenix aren't the same role.
But Drone can play both of them because he's a good
exactly
player.
Just to kind of work around Wardell's Jet only play style. So I do agree with that can be a problem. I like to see what if you put Wardell on a Phoenix or Wardell on something like that, and if he can't, then is that going to be an issue? You know what I mean?
It's absolutely going to be an issue. I mean, even thinking this is long term. What if another agent comes out that does what Jet does but better?
They did mention in one of their competitive blogs that that they would add bans at some point, I think when they reach a threshold, but someone did the math and that agent threshold won't happen until like 2025 or something.
Oh, really?
So
That's pretty funny.
he's going to survive for a few more years. But like, what if that happens, right? And you just ban Jet. It's like, uh-oh.
We got Wardell playing Killjoy.
Yeah, yeah. Trying to figure out how you get the turret to look in a different direction or something. All right, so those were some pretty good hot takes.
Those
I
were
think we
some
should
pretty
move
hot
on.
takes.
Yeah, I'm gonna move on to who you thought was the MVP for TSM of the week. We're gonna do a segment where we pick which player performed the best for their respective esport and was the most important person of the week for TSM as an org. So I know you just spent hot takes kind of bashing Wardell and thinking he's not the one. So who do you think is the MVP of the week? Because I'm very curious to hear.
Well, the TSM MVP of the week, it's got to go to Hwin. Whatever. Talk about match fixing. Give him a raise, TSM. No, of course it's Wardell. He looked unstoppable this week. I don't know what he ate for breakfast, but Gen G was definitely on the menu. I have to give him the MVP this week. There's no arguing it. Sorry, Nick Oettinger. Come on the podcast. I have to give it to Wardell, even though it pains me, even though I think TSM needs to move on from him. He looked incredible this week.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to agree, right? Like, you don't see those performances rarely ever in that Gen G match, and it's not like he was playing against those no-name teams. He was against Gen G to move on to the next step. So it was a big match. He came up huge. He styled on them, essentially. Honorable mention maybe to Sabrosa. He looked pretty good in those matches as well, but unfortunately it's hard to be in the MVP discussion when your teammate is like 21-1 at one point or whatever he was. So I guess before we close out, what are your predictions for the TSM Valorant team going against Immortals here?
Well, I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough game, and I think it depends entirely on Wardell. Now, I spent this podcast shitting on him, and I spent this podcast talking about how I don't think he's right for the team. But goddamn, Wardell, I hope you show up next week. If he doesn't, it's going to be a massacre. If he shows up, I think they can squeak it out. I'm going to be optimistic here. I'm going to say TSM beats Immortals. I think it's a close game. I think they beat them 2-1. I think at least 2 of those maps are going to overtime.
I think TSM is going to take Immortals 2-0. I know, they started out shaky against Sonics and everything like that, but I really think the TSM against Gen G could be like false hope or whatever, but they didn't just like win off of doing crazy shots, or they didn't just win off of kind of just styling.
Well, they did. Wardell killed Hwin through the wall with an op. He had no idea he was there.
How
do you come back from that?
So there were crazy shots.
Literally, there were crazy shots.
But it looked like they did their homework. They looked more prepared. Things did kind of get sketchy towards the second map. It lasted way too long. It was almost like, can we wrap this up? But I want to say that TSM did their homework. They looked at the bracket, and maybe they prepped more for Gen G and hopefully Immortals than they did for all those other teams. Like, they actually sat down, constructed new comps, and are trying to bring out something instead of just kind of mechanically beating these teams. They have some carries. Immortals has shot up. They have chemicals. We need to do our homework. We need to come up with our own game and beat them with it. So I'm hoping that's the case, and they'll 2-0 Immortals. I do think the maps will be close, but I'm very hopeful that they're coming in prepared.
Okay. There you have it. It's on record. I'm sure we won't be regretting these predictions next week. 100% positive that things are going to turn out.
They always do.
I think that's it for the podcast this week. Thanks for tuning in. If you have brain damage and you want to hear more of us, where can they find us, Dave?
Well, you could read some of Ryan's great tweets on Twitter at Ryan_the_mans.
I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to cut out you giving my Twitter away.
I'm going to expose him. There are a lot of jokes thrown at the wall there. They're all funny, of course.
Well, now you're lying to our audience too. Okay.
And I don't think there's anything. There's nowhere you can find me.
That's incorrect. There is a place you can find Dave. Dave streams regularly on Twitch TV /the Dave Cage. I think you're doing a charity stream soon, right? It's the For all the money he raises going to the Men Born with Very Small Penises Foundation.
That was an issue that's pretty near and dear to me, mainly because my co-host here is affected by it.
All right. I'm gonna stop recording before you get any more zingers on me. But thanks for listening, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.